Hello everybody and welcome to Campus 101 exam tutorials. My name is Dr. Peter and today we're going to be looking at what we call the organs of government. Sometimes we also call this the arms of government. Alright, the arms of government. So you know that government is a body that regulates the affairs of a state. Now, but you cannot regulate the affairs of the state if you don't have hands. So we call them the arms of government. And the arms of government are what we call the legislative arm, the executive arm, and the judicial arm. Now, we're going to take them one after the other so that we have a good idea of what they do. Now, let me start with the legislative arm. The legislative arm of government is responsible for what we call lawmaking. So they make the law. They make the law. And how do they make the law? They make the law because they are selected from the entire country. When they are selected from the entire country, they come together and then they discuss, they debate, they argue, and then they find the correct solutions that would favor the citizens of the state. Now, let me give you a little bit of structure into the legislative. These are the people we will call senators in the House of Representatives. There are 360 seats in the House of Representatives with 109, senatorial seats. These people represent districts from the entire country. All right, so they make the laws to favor. They're supposed to make laws to favor the citizens of the country. And the House of Representatives is divided into two parts. All right, so what we call the bicameral in Nigeria, what we call the bicameral. Now there are two ways. It can be unicameral or bicameral, but in Nigeria it's bicameral. Bicameral in the sense that they are divided into two, what we call the upper house and the lower house. You will understand this very soon. So the reason why it's like this is so that we can have protection. So when this first group of people make a law, this second group of people would also think about the law that they have made, and then they will send it back to the upper house to know that whether or not the laws are helpful to the state. Don't forget, at the center of all this government is what? The state. And the state is made up of people. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Now, let's talk about, I think we should talk about the judiciary first, and then we'll now talk about the executive last, since they are quite important. Now, when these laws are made, all right, let's say these laws, we'll translate them here to the judiciary. The work of the judiciary is to interpret the laws. To interpret the laws. So when the judiciary interprets the laws, they will now, be able, the executive arm of government will now be able to carry out these laws. Now, let me tell you a little bit of the structure of the judiciary so you understand what I'm talking about. There is a chief justice in Nigeria. The chief justice of the and it's called the Chief Justice of the Federation, or the CJN. All right. So the Chief Justice, with his other judicial panel and members, interprets the laws that are made by the legislative arm. Now, you need to know something called the court system in Nigeria. I'm going to mention it briefly so that you know how the court system in Nigeria functions in the judicial arm of government. The highest court, which is overseen by the Chief Justice of the Federation, is called the Supreme Court. Now, under the Supreme Court, and this thing is going down now, so you understand what I'm saying. Under the Supreme Court is what we call the Court of Appeal, or the Appeal Court, but I'm just going to write it as Appeal. All right, so Supreme Court, Appeal Court. The next court after that, and this is, I'm coming down. The Supreme Court is the highest court, don't forget. The next court after the Court of Appeal downwards is the Federal High Court. All right, the Federal High Court. This is high, letter H. So the Federal High Court. Now, underneath the Federal High Court is what we call the State High Court. the State High Court. All right, the State High Court. Under the State High Court is what we call, the Magistrate Court. I'm sure you'd have heard of this before. The Magistrate Court. And under the Magistrate Court is the lowest level of, court system, which is called the... Exactly, I'm waiting for you. You don't know that answer. That's simple, my dear. Called, the nominal court or the Sharia court. What we call the customary court / the Sharia court. So these are the lowest level of court where they settle disputes. And above the customary court is the Magistrate Court, the State High Court, the Federal High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. So don't forget, the Chief Justice, along with 21 judges, all right, overseeing the Supreme Court, with what we call the judicial arm of government. Now let's go to the executive arm, where things will get a little, exciting. These guys are the ones that carry out, or what we call the execute, right? They carry out the laws. So the law now says that there should be 200 universities in Nigeria so that every Jambite will have admission. It is the executive president and the executive governors, and yes, and I think this is what I'm going to write down. So the president, the governors, all right, these are those people that are the executioners. They are like the workmen. They are the people that will go and give out the contract so that those schools can be built, so that new roads can be built, so that electricity can be provided. This is what they're called, the executive arm of government. These are the people that actually are supposed to carry out the actual function. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. Yes. So now the executive, there are various styles of executive in the executive arm of government. The executive can be nominal or it can be real. What I mean by nominal or real, if it's nominal, it's just by name. You are called the president by name, but you are really not the president because you don't have the power, right? But if it's real, it means you actually have the power. That's one system of having executive. The next one is when it's hereditary or elected. When I mean elected, it means people vote for who is going to be the leader or the president. When it's hereditary, it means it's passed in families like royalty, right? It can be single or it can be plural. When I mean single or plural, I mean there's one single president, one single governor, or it can be plural where you have a team of people deciding, what is going to be. And then the last part can be parliamentary, or it can be presidential. Of course, Nigeria operates a presidential system of government, but in the British, in the UK, they operate a parliamentary system of government. Now, the last thing we're going to discuss in this video is what we call bills. Everybody say bills. Not Bill Gates, not money, but bills. Bills. What are bills? Now, these laws that we're talking about, before they are laws, they are called bills. Before they are made laws, they are called bills. And a bill is a proposed... I hope I'm going to spell this word. A proposed legislation. So it is proposed. It's not yet a legislation, but it's a proposed legislation that is under consideration. There are various types of bills, right? The bills can be a public bill, and this public bill affects everybody. So it can be a public bill, or it can be a private bill. Don't forget that these lawmakers are representing districts, so a private bill can just be by one lawmaker, right? And then it can be a money bill, and then it can also be an executive bill. So these are some of the types. These are the types of bills that we have, all right? Now, before a bill becomes a law, it's going to have to pass through 5 stages. Before a bill becomes a law, it's going to pass through 5 stages. It's going to pass what we call hearings or readings. So it's going to pass one, it's called the first reading. It has to also pass through the second reading. that same bill has to also go. The third stage is called the committee stage. The committee stage. The fourth stage, hope you're with me, is called exactly the third reading. Now, the fourth stage of a bill to become a law is what we call the joint conference. The joint conference. Here, many senators, everybody will come and talk about it and debate about it. And then finally, we say the bill has ascended. So the assent. And then after the assent, it's going to be passed into law. And then this bill has become a law. This law is going to be interpreted by the judiciary. And then the judiciary will give it to the executive. And the executive will carry out the law. So this is what we call, the arm of government. I hope you understand the whole video, and I'll see you in the next video.